Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into an absolutely wild story today. We're tracking exactly how technology is completely rewiring our society and culture. And we're going to look at this through a really cool structured lens. We're starting super micro, like the literal thoughts inside your head, and zooming all the way out to the macro, the massive global systems keeping us all safe. We pulled some brilliant insights to map this whole trajectory out, so let's just dive right in.
So here's a question for you. Are we actually losing our ability to think just by relying on AI? It's kind of a deeply personal thing, right? Think about your own daily habits for a second. When you hit a wall at work or you're stuck writing a tricky email, how fast do you reach for a chatbot? We're constantly told that AI makes us so much more efficient, but you've got to wonder, at what cost to our own mental stamina? And that brings us to the very first, most intimate level of this technological shift.
Section 1. AI and the Transformation of Thought, focusing on the impact on the brain. Let's look at what AI is doing right now to our problem-solving persistence.
Okay, so recent studies show a pretty stark contrast. Using AI absolutely speeds things up at first. Boom, you get the answer right away. But when you take that AI support away, humans actually show a drop in their ability to figure things out on their own. We literally give up easier. However, and this is the absolute game changer here, it entirely depends on how you use it. If you treat AI as just a machine that gives you direct answers, you lose that persistence. You're basically outsourcing your brain power. But if you use AI as a hint, framing it more like a collaborative tool to just gently guide you, you actually keep your human perseverance and self-reliance intact. It turns out, how we talk to this tech completely dictates whether we lose or keep our cognitive endurance.
Moving on to Section 2. Physical AI and the mind and the future depicted by sci-fi. Because if AI is already changing our internal thoughts, what happens when it gets a physical body and walks around with us? Well, to figure that out, we can turn to science fiction.
You see, fiction is this incredible bridge for our culture. Take the character Murderbot from Martha Wells' hugely popular sci-fi series. I know, the name sounds super intimidating, but this is actually a human-like physical security unit that really just wants to be left alone to binge-watch its favorite shows. It's so relatable. And why do people love this character so much? Because the author uses this physical AI to explore neurodivergent futures and our own human anxieties. Fiction like this lets us build an emotional connection with the idea of autonomous agents. It makes us ask, how are we going to coexist with physical AI when it eventually steps out of our screens and sits on our couches? It's basically preparing our culture for the inevitable day we integrate with non-human minds.
Section 3. The Loss of Physicality in Art. Looking at the body in a digitalizing world. As everything around us gets more digital, abstract, and heavily optimized, what exactly happens to the messy, physical reality of the human body?
We're actually living through this massive sociological shift right now. Think back to the 1960s. The counterculture movements back then were incredibly visceral, right? Protests were physical. They were tied to shared spaces, moving bodies, and heavily linked to music. Think of artists like Country Joe McDonald. There was this literal, street-level solidarity. Now fast forward to the present day. That physical connection has largely been swapped out for fragmented digital discourse. Our political debates are mostly fought in the abstract arenas of social media. We've basically traded physical, bodily mobilization for digital arguments. In a lot of ways, technology has disembodied our societal passions.
But you know what? Human culture inherently pushes back against a purely cold digital world. Just look at this timeless wisdom from Zeami, the legendary Japanese playwright and actor. From his classic work Fushikoden, he wrote, "Movement naturally arises from music." It's such a simple yet absolutely profound reminder of our organic nature. You simply cannot digitize that spontaneous physical human reaction.
And we still see this beautiful resistance to pure technological efficiency today, through incredible artists like Ayo Yamada and Yuji Ueno. When Yamada dances, she is definitely not following some perfectly optimized AI-generated algorithm. No way. She brings a speaker, she feels the space, and she moves naturally within it. She is dancing in irreversible time, bringing raw, undeniable life to physical space. Art like this is absolutely crucial. It anchors us. It reminds us of our physical reality in a world that is constantly trying to upload us into the digital ether.
All right, Section 4. An intelligent mobility society, and AI spreading to the streets. Let's zoom out from the individual human body to the macro scale of our societal infrastructure.
Take Nissan's aggressive long-term vision as a perfect example of how entire industries are totally rewiring themselves around AI. They aren't just building cars anymore, they are pushing for intelligent mobility with systems like ProPilot. And doing this requires a complete top-to-bottom transformation of their whole industrial structure. Why go through all that?
Well, because the global race is fiercely competitive right now, especially with the rapid advancement of Chinese automakers in the EV and AI space. Nissan's short-term strategy, focusing on the next-generation Skyline, is really the proving ground for all of this. The big takeaway here is that AI isn't just a simple software update on your phone. It's literally becoming the foundational infrastructure of how we physically move through the world.
Finally, Section 5. Global-scale AI governance. Intelligence monitoring the world. We are zooming all the way out now to the level of human survival itself. Let's look at the history of how we've tried to govern our most dangerous technologies. Way back in 1946, early international plans to control nuclear weapons, like the Brugge and Gromyko plans, completely fell apart due to mistrust. And that failure in rulemaking led directly to the acceleration of the Cold War nuclear arms race. Now look all the way over at the end of the timeline. February 2026. This is huge because it marks the expiration of the New START treaty between the US and Russia, which limits deployed nuclear weapons. The old, paper-based treaties of the 20th century are literally expiring, and that leaves a massive, terrifying vacuum in global security.
So how in the world do we fix a geopolitical deadlock like that? Well, the proposal is to utilize AI systems and vast satellite networks as a substitute for those expired treaties to monitor global nuclear arsenals. I mean, think about the incredible irony here. The exact same AI technology that we started this explainer with, the one that might be making us a little less persistent at writing emails or solving math problems, is now being seriously proposed as the neutral, unblinking eye we need to oversee global nuclear disarmament. We're essentially hoping that artificial intelligence can step up and provide the objective oversight that human politics just can't seem to manage right now.
And that brings us to the absolute biggest question of our time. From the private thoughts inside our own heads, to our physical art, to the cars driving on our streets, all the way up to the nuclear weapons pointing at our cities, AI is permeating every single layer of human existence. So what rules will we draw with AI? How we choose to govern this tech, whether it's deciding when to ask a chatbot for a hint or trusting a satellite to monitor a missile silo, is going to entirely define the next chapter of human culture and society. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really encourage you to keep questioning the impact of technology in your own world.